No one is standing straight like that. No, everyone is bent like this. For the first 5 minutes, it felt like all the veins in my waist stuck together. There wasn't movement anymore. Like it wasn't moving like this. It wasn't moving. It was not like a metal. Story time, guys. My experience working in a warehouse is something I don't enjoy talking about. But today, I want to talk about it. Yes. Warehouse was the first job I did when I first came into the UK. Then I was a student. I don't really know if I needed the job or not then, because my program of study, my cost of living, and anything concerning my studies was fully covered with a grant. So I wouldn't say I needed the money for either accommodation, paying of school fees. No, that wasn't a necessity then for me. I would say that I was just trying to live up to my flatmate. I remember saying it to my cousin Rahman that I'm going in for a warehouse job with my flatmate, and he went like, "You are crazy, you cannot do a warehouse job." And I was like, why? These flatmates I'm talking about are females actually. They were Nigerians. And he said, you cannot much work with Nigerians. Even he said something funny actually. He said even Ghanaian boys cannot compete work with Nigerians girls, not to talk of me. To be honest, that statement did not make much sense to me then. It just passed through one ear and exited from the other, because I couldn't see any difference in their female features. To the best of my knowledge, we were all females, we were all students, and we were all newbies in the UK. The fact that they were striving amidst all the challenges, there was cold, there was COVID and all that. So I didn't concede to my cousin's advice and I followed them. We went in for the warehouse job hunt. We picked trains every single day to the nearby cities to look for a job and register for those agencies. One thing that didn't sit down well with me then was the fact that we needed to go to a nearby city to get a job. So why couldn't we get a job in our city, the city that we resided, Because to me, if I live in Accra, Ghana, I should be working in Accra, Ghana. If I live in Tamale, Ghana, I should be working in Tamale, Ghana. I mean, that was me, very naive in the UK. I didn't know how the system works. So that was the first thing that clicked my mind, and I started asking questions. But that didn't stop me. I was so determined to get off my lazy coats and just be as a striving lady as they were. We went in search of warehouse job. Eventually we secured a job. For a fact, I couldn't match up with the number of shifts they pick, so I could only follow them every other day, not on every shift. The warehouse we started working in was for a delivery company. This particular warehouse was that big. The job involved sorting packages, parcels, using the conveyor belt. I'll put the conveyor belt on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. The conveyor belt in that particular warehouse was fast-paced, and they were that big because the warehouse was big. Sometimes we load and unload trucks when they bring parcels, or after sorting them, then you load them into the trucks, then they send them to their destination. Sometimes we prepare inventories, stocks and all that for shipment. Some people, especially the men, were even operating the forklifts. This work was physically demanding. It was physically demanding as you constantly go up and down. I'll show you. Put down, pick, put down, pick, put down, pick, put down, pick, put down. It was crazy, guys. I'm not even joking. Seriously, just the demonstration, see how I'm panting. So just imagine, you can imagine the number of times you will go up and down in a second when the conveyor belt is really fast paced, especially if the warehouse is busy that day, lot of stock, lot of inventory in the warehouse. Gosh, everywhere is busy and you got to keep up to the task. That was how physically demanding it was. When you're loading the trucks, that is the other part of it that wasn't just appealing at all. No phone was allowed, no any form of music device like MP3 or something to just keep yourself together and bear the job. There was nothing like that. There were supervisors everywhere. You could not even take a 5 for a rest, or even less than that, and they will shout on your head. So you got to keep going. It was crazy. At least to me, it was crazy. There was a time that I cried on shift. The time didn't seem to be moving. The warehouse was that busy. The conveyor belt I was working with that day was really fast paced. And there were supervisors all over. You can't take a 5. You can't pause. You got to be working, because you need to sort the passes out. If you allow a lot of the passes to pass by without you grabbing them like that, you are not doing your job. And that will mean, going up and down continuously till it was time for you to take your 30 minutes break. I'm talking about 7-hour shift, and you got to work for like 3 hours or 3.5 hours before you can have a 30 minutes break in that environment. That day, the time didn't seem to be moving. It wasn't even working, I guess. And my waist wasn't, at some point, my waist got stuck. It felt like all the veins in my waist stuck together, and there wasn't movement anymore. Like, it wasn't moving like this. It wasn't moving. It was just like this. So I was going like that, going like that, going like that. My upper body should be moving, but my waist was stuck. There wasn't movement. It was not like a metal. That was how rigid my waist was. And I tell you what, after that day, I did not just get waist pain, but I got a chronic backache. A chronic backache that I felt really bad. I locked my door. My flatmate constantly knocked on my door so we can go for work. Tima, it's time. Have you not booked a shift? I did not even have the decency to tell them that I wasn't doing again. I just locked my door, and I only come out when they are not around. Sometimes you close work at midnight, like 2 a.m., 1 a.m. Because of the shift pattern, the train station and that town will close at a certain time in the night. If you come after that time, the entrance is not even open for you to say, oh, I will have a rest in the lounge whilst waiting. No, we either stay outside in the cold, or we kind of like come together and book a taxi and pay. And it was that expensive then, so it wasn't everyone that was interested to pay. So you just had to stay and stay in the cold till it was time for a train, so you can board the train. You might even end up doing like 12 hours on the road, going and coming, but you've only worked for 6 hours. Like, for the first 5 minutes when you finish your shift and everybody come out from the warehouse, no one is standing straight like that. No, everyone is bent like this for the first 5 minutes. I'm not joking, guys. Everyone is bent, and you can't even laugh at the other because you are like that. And I was like, no, I shouldn't have. I called my cousin. He said I was stubborn. Since then, I never did warehouse job. My brother came into the UK a year after I had been in the UK, and I strongly advised him against doing warehouse job. It is not a healthy job, especially with the kind of warehouse that I've done. There were people that I worked in the warehouse with, and later they got different warehouses that were much better. The working conditions there were much better. At least they could take a 5, at least they could chat with the person they are working with, they could have their music on, and that just helped you to keep yourself together to bear the work, But if The environment is that strict, the work is that physically demanding. It just doesn't go well. Okay, it took a toll on me, both physically, mental, and even on my studies. I wouldn't say my flatmates didn't feel the work. Of course, there were fee paying students, and they definitely needed the money to keep up in the UK. They did complain about some stress once in a while. I remember Vera, my friend Vera, told me that once the money hits the account, it's enough motivation for her to go back, and it's enough medicine to cure her stress. Unfortunately, it wasn't same to me. So that was the difference. It got to a time that they had changed a job to a very nice job compared to the warehouse job. I think it was a support work job. They had worked for months before they even decided to talk to me, because they just assumed that Tima doesn't want to do any job at all. By then, I had gotten a student job with my university. Just quite recently, 2 weeks ago, I think, yeah. Vera texted me. I was like, she's talking to her husband about the time we're doing warehouse, and she was like, Tima, how were we looking when we come out from the warehouse for the first 5 minutes? I said, we're all looking like a rain-beaten hen or a cold chicken, a chicken from the cold weather. Like that. It wasn't funny. And I would advise that such warehouse, disclaimer, I'm not saying all warehouses, because some are actually nice. There are people that don't like boring job, they want to be active. But I tell you, with this particular warehouse I have been, it's not like, if you are looking for an active work, that is not where to go. There are some better warehouses that you can exploit, but that, no. Especially students, please do not let these kind of things take a toll on your studies, especially now. With all these stuffs going on in the UK. That was my experience working in the warehouse, and up until now, I don't feel okay talking about it, but I'm happy that I got the courage to talk about it today. That is it for now, guys. I'll see you in my next video.